Over the years, I've had quite the infatuation with a certain series that most fedora-tipping nice guys and people who wear this shirt seem to enjoy. That's right, boys and girls, I'm talking about Mega Man. This little blue man has been giving me fantastic games over the years, with my personal favorite being the X series of Mega Man games, because that's a series made for all the edgy big boys like me to enjoy. I think the first Mega Man X really stands out from the crowd, and it's god tier, and anyone who disagrees with me better be ready to face the power of my blade. That's right, Tyler from school, I'm talking to you. But you may be asking, why do so many people hold this game in such high regard? Well, my beloved viewer, I'm here to explain why this game is one of the best games to grace the Super NES, and why so many deadbeats like me seem to like it so much. Without further ado, let's dive right into my crippling obsession. Let's start with the history behind this game, because much like you all, I also enjoy getting my ear talked off with pointless trivia. So, after the release of the Super NES, Keiji Inafune and his merry band of businessmen knew that they needed to reboot Mega Man for the new console. So they redesigned him, gave him a cool red friend with a rad sword, put more emphasis on the story, as well as added some superb movement options that enhanced the gameplay from the first Mega Man series. So these legendary fellas released this fantastic game in December of 1993 to massive acclaim. Oh boy, you say, but does the game hold up today? Well, my viewer, the answer to that is yes, if it wasn't already obvious from the intro to this review. I'm one of the raging fanboys ready on the front lines to defend this game in the heat of battle, and my justice will be swift, I can assure you. But anyways, I'll finally be explaining why this game keeps me awake at night, weeping and sobbing into my pillow like a sad fool at how I'll never be able to experience such mastery ever again in a 2D platformer about a small blue man. Until X4, that is. That game is exceptional. Giving a quick rundown of this game's plot, the story starts 100 years after the first series, with this guy, Dr. Kane, finding a capsule with an upgraded Mega Man model inside, a Mega Man 2.0 if you will. As well as being a certified big strong anime boy, he can also think and feel for himself, a quality his predecessor didn't have apparently. X is so cool that they made a whole new series of robots based on his design. This new race of machines were dubbed the name Reploids, as a combination of the words replica and android. But sooner or later, some Reploids go rogue and start attacking people. Classified as Mavericks, they become such a threat that the government gets involved and creates the Maverick Hunter Task Force, an elite military of Reploid good boys such as X and his friend Zero. Zero is objectively the coolest thing ever, but whoever made the task force doesn't seem to think so, so they made this Buzz Lightyear looking loser the commander. You see Sigma right here? This so-called commander caught the Maverick virus and kept it a secret from everyone. I find that pretty ironic for the leader of the Maverick Hunter Task Force. If that wasn't enough, he infected a bunch of his strong comrades and waged a war against the humans. Yeah, nice going, pal. So that leaves X and Zero to travel to the 8 stages and defeat Sigma and his Mavericks.
Well, I set up if I do say so myself.
This story works so much better than the Dr. Wily shenanigans of days old. Like, seriously, was anybody intimidated by him? With Sigma, I actually feel a sense of urgency that you can't really experience with the original series. And before one of you types in the comments that story doesn't matter in a Mega Man game, I first want you to consider the fact that I'm the alpha male in this situation, and your opinion means nothing to a legend like me! That's right, Tyler, I'm on to you! But anyways, a minor complaint I have with the game's plot is that it isn't displayed very well in the game. Sure, we do have the occasional wall of text and cutscene here and there, but the interesting backstory isn't really spelled out in the game. So in my expert opinion, the best way to get the story is through Day of Sigma, a 30-minute animated short that was made along with the remake of this game. It acts as a prequel right before the game begins and it works so well. Like, dear lord is it good. It gives the perfect exposition to the game as a whole and I highly recommend checking it out when you have the time. Now to arguably the best part of any video game, the gameplay. And oh boy is the gameplay good. The controls and moveset just make the game for me. X retains all of his moves from the original games, jumping, shooting, weapon charging, and of course taking the boss's abilities. But here we have some new additions, those being the wall jump and dash upgrades. They shake up the gameplay just enough to improve upon what Mega Man could already do. By jumping and dashing at the same time, X can perform a dash jump. It feels so good to do a dash jump, you feel like a literal god among men. I mean, all day my peers and fellow classmates treat me as such. But it does feel great nonetheless to dash through enemies at blinding speeds. Mastering the game's controls is the key to completing it, and one of the major draws to the game in my opinion. The control set allows more flexibility. Gone are the days of falling to your death with no questions asked. Now you have the handy dandy wall jump, which gives X the ability to scale walls and other structures. I have spent hours upon hours in my life, which could have been spent making friends, trying to master this game's legendary controls. And people wonder why my family is so proud. But it's all worth it because you can do this. Do I even need to mention how amazing the opening stage is? This part of the game has gone down in history as one of the best designed stages ever made. The Vial fight at the end is great and really sets the tone for the rest of the game. But before I puke out everything the Ego Raptor said, just watch his video on the subject. It's really good. I think I just became one of the many losers to make an X review and mention this man. I'm not even joking, he's mentioned in every single review of this game I've ever seen. What a legend. This is a good time to talk about the game's music. It's the seasoning on top of this delectable pile of packaged ramen noodles. You see these composers right here? They're all wonderful people and are most likely going to rule this pitiful earth one day. I tip my hat to every one of these talented musical gods. This soundtrack is definitely one of the best the Super NES has to offer. It's hard to accurately explain how great this OST is. It practically oozes with the word radical. Just listen to some of these! And those are just a few of the fantastic tracks in this game. The music helps you get pumped and keep your rhythm all throughout each playthrough. And just listen to that opening music! That's some good stuff right there. If you're a fan of this sort of music, I highly recommend checking out more of the soundtrack after you watch this video. The game design is spectacular. There's something I like in each stage, and I find it hard to dislike most of them. All the stages have unique set pieces and mechanics, like the minecarts in Armored Armadillo stage, the battleship and Launch Octopus's level, and the mech suits throughout the game. Also, the stages can change based on what bosses you've beaten. For instance, after beating Storm Eagle stage, the lights in Spark Mandrill stage start to flicker for some reason. What didn't these courageous scholars think of? What's more, they added mini-bosses, some pretty cool ones too. But the one from Spark Mandrill stage gives me an aneurysm. If you get caught in his gel, there's a small chance he can practically one-shot you by lunging his body at you. It's always unpredictable and it can be a huge roadblock for new players. That being said, I've played this game so many times that he never poses a threat to me anymore. Every stage in this game is memorable to me, and they all have something to set it apart from the others. Same can be said for this game's amazing bosses. First of all, their designs are really cool. They have a lot of creativity put into them and it shows. Storm Eagle and Sting Chameleon come to mind in this regard. Each of the fights are fun and I generally enjoy fighting each one. You can defeat them in the recommended order, which can put the bosses in an easy pattern, or you can be edgy and just defeat them with your little pea shooter instead of using special weapons. I personally like to avoid any and all frustration in video games, but the option is certainly there for all you madmen that are interested. All jokes aside, Buster-only fights can be really fun and challenging. It can bring a whole new layer of strategy to replays of the game. On the subject of special weapons, they certainly have their uses besides defeating Mavericks. I really like using the homing missiles in certain parts of the game, but overall, I was fine only using them during bosses. To be fair, I never really used the special weapons during regular gameplay in other Mega Man games either. I feel you can just get by using the X-Buster alone in all the stages. But special weapons aren't the only thing that X acquires on its journey to become Best Boy. If you haven't noticed yet, the life bar in this game starts out much smaller compared to his classic counterpart. This is because throughout the 8 stages there lies heart tanks, which boost your life bar. On top of this, there are 4 sub-tanks that work much like the E-tanks from the past games, except you can refill these. To cap this all off, there are 4 armor upgrades to find. There's the standard armor upgrade that lets you take 50% less damage, the helmet that allows you to break blocks with your head, the aforementioned dash boots, and the amazing X-Buster upgrade. Whoever came up with this concept is a genius. One of my favorite parts of a game is feeling your progression as you go further. And with the heart tanks and upgrades, I get that same sort of feeling, like I'm growing along with X. That sounds really stupid, but hunting down the upgrades throughout each level really gives me a sense of accomplishment. Now, if only I could feel that same accomplishment in day-to-day activities, that would be really great. But I guess some people are just meant to be failures. If I were to have any problems with these additions, it would have to be that the sub-tanks can make the game really grind-heavy. Like, these jerks take so long to fill. Also, the head-bashing move is utterly useless except for 2 or 3 spots in the game. But before we move on, I need to mention how amazing the Buster upgrade is. Just look at it. It's pretty cool. After you've beaten the 8 Mavericks and probably reached Super Saiyan 5 Depression, you have the final 4 levels to go, the Sigma stages. Beat them all to reach the Buzz Lightyear man himself. I love these stages so much, man. There's some pretty good platforming challenges to cap off this stellar game. If I would have to pick, the best of the 4 Sigma stages would have to be the first one. It starts out with Zero being like, I'm a go, you defeat these guys. So then you do some stuff and meet up with Zero and Violet in this little room. Then they fight off screen. But then you come in, and Zero's defeated, then you get beat up, again, but then Zero jumps up and suicide bombs himself on Violet, leaving only you to finish the job. This battle is one of the most memorable in the game, not because of the fight itself. It's actually a cakewalk, but the build-up to it. This guy destroyed you in the first stage, with Zero having to swoop in and rescue you, but now Zero is dead, and you finally have your chance to prove yourself. So when you beat him, you feel really satisfied. You go up to Zero's body as he says his last words and fades away, gone forever. At least until the next game. So after some rematches and some sort of forgettable bosses, you'll finally reach Sigma, the man, the mystery, the forehead! But first you have to climb this incredibly long upward shaft with these little worm things that you can easily farm. The tension is raised even higher with this spooky music. So after climbing for what seemed like 15 seconds, you reach the top to find this smug man before you. He gives you this little villain monologue, then sticks his dog on you. Oh yeah, whatever, he's easy. Then Sigma comes back, throws off his little jacket, and flings himself at you with a lightsaber. You can lock him into an easy pattern with the spark weapon. But then he has his final form! This dragon thing! This part of the boss fight is so much fun. You're constantly having to think on your feet. This fight separates the boys from the men! You show everyone, even Tyler, what you're made of! That you have worth! My teachers were all wrong! That was pretty easy. I guess that was a pretty good boss fight. Overall, I had a great time replaying the game for this review. Giving this game a go again really made me realize just how much I love it. It's the perfect amount of challenge to be accessible to new players, while the game as a whole is so much fun to come back to for experienced players. And because the game is so short, I find myself replaying this game very often. I hope you enjoyed my review of Mega Man X, and if by any chance you enjoyed this autistic thrill ride, consider subscribing for more of this garbage. I mean, if you want, that is.
Don't get the wrong idea!
You see these guys right here? They're amazing. Sub to them, you fool. They helped me a lot with this video, and I really appreciate their advice. Now, if you excuse me, I have to clean all the blood and Cheeto dust off my shirt.